amazing to interview. So we will start with a rapid fire round just to break the ice. You get 3 passes. In case you don't want to answer a question, you can just say pass. But try to keep your answers to one word or one sentence only. Okay, let's start. At what age do you want to retire?
Never want to retire.
Never want to retire? That's amazing. How long does it take you to get ready in the mornings?
15 minutes.
Can't believe. Okay. Most embarrassing moment of your life?
Being caught in my car having my lunch by my colleagues.
Ah. Okay. Favorite color?
Red,
Red. What time of day are you most inspired?
early morning, 5 a.m. club.
Really? Can't relate. How many hours of sleep can you survive on?
4 hours,
Ras? Okay. Pick one. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
pass.
Pass. That's real. How do you relax?
By listening to music.
Music. What kind of music?
I like instrumental, jazz,
Okay. How many cups of coffee do you drink per day?
1 cup,
1 cup. Coffee or tea?
tea.
Tea. A habit of yours that you hate?
Procrastinating.
The most valuable skill you've learned in life?
To be patient.
Your favorite Netflix show?
Favorite. I don't know if you guys, anybody, it's not Netflix, it's called Gaia. And I'm watching a show which is called Transcendence and I love it.
Okay. Morning routine, early riser or night owl?
Early riser.
Early riser. One word description of your leadership style?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. Top priority in your daily schedule?
Meditation.
Wow. Ideal vacation spot for relaxation?
Anywhere close to the beach or mountains.
Oh, that's nice that you live in Dubai. Key factor for maintaining work-life balance?
Be very thoughtful about where you're spending time.
That's the end for rapid fire. Now we'll move on to long-form questions.
Okay.
So, first question. As the head of architecture at Hewlett Watts University in Dubai, how do you ensure that the curriculum stay relevant in such a dynamic industry?
So I just want to repeat, it's not only that the profession is dynamic, I think life itself is dynamic and the only constant is change. So how do we prepare for this constant change? So in the program itself, we have what I call as the three-pronged approach. This three-pronged approach essentially is how can you continue learning outside of the classroom? Learning does not stop when you grow or when you're outside the classroom. So we encourage this learning outside of the classroom. And the way we do this is by making sure that our students are outside the classroom, visiting architecture offices, they're going on field trips, they're actually getting the opportunity to interact with the real life scenarios. That is number one. The second one, which is very important, is because we want them to be relevant and we want them to be future ready too, we allow the industry experts to come into the classroom. So it's inside out and then outside in. And these industry experts actually become a part of our teaching faculty. They have practices in Dubai across the world and they come and teach our faculty. The last one, which is the third one, is also one of the very important ones. And the reason I say that is important is our students are doers. You need to learn by doing. So they get their hands dirty, very, very hands-on approach, and they are essentially making and doing, and then they're exhibiting their work, showcasing their work. So it completes that entire loop where now they get feedback from peers and industry also.
Okay. Can you share an example of a recent curriculum update that reflects these trends?
So a recent update I would be is because of the nature of the university, we're very global in nature and more architecture schools actually get into this format of being very siloed. We are only architecture, but it's important that these boundaries begin to get blurred. And because of the university itself, that is Heriot Watt, and the school within which the architecture program sits, we have a lot of opportunity for students across disciplines to collaborate. They can not only collaborate across disciplines, they can also collaborate across campuses. So essentially, we have this project which is called the Collaborative Project. This project allows students from architectural engineering, architecture, civil engineering to come together and then work towards a final project. The second one is we encourage our students to participate in international competitions, which is then them working on an international platform. And for that, we created what is called as the creative clusters, where students across cohorts, a year one student collaborating with the year four student, can actually join together as a team and then participate in these competitions.
Okay, so the second question is sustainability is a key focus in architecture today. How does Harriet Watt integrate sustainability design principles into its program?
Right. So first, sustainability, I feel, is the most cliched word that we have right now. But also, I believe in architectural education and in any field, it is no longer an option. It's not an option. We all need to be responding to the SDGs, the Sustainability Development Goals, absolutely critical and important. But within the architectural education, though it is very important, we are also beginning to see a lot of challenge that comes about in not the teaching and the knowledge part of sustainability, but how do they apply these ideas and concepts in real life situations. So how we've tried to mitigate that within the program is, first, I think all across the world, it is about time that our architectural education, architects, teachers, academicians, researchers, they need to reevaluate how we teach architecture. And in that context, it becomes very important that now we start looking at what are those innovative pedagogical strategies in learning and teaching that can be applied so that students are more application focused. If it just remains as an idea or a concept that is sustainability and you're not applied it, then we have failed. So that is very important. So how we do that within the program and at Harriet Watt in the architecture program itself is we are looking at real life projects. When students are designing, they are designing real life project, which has a real client, it has a real user, and it has a real site. It's no longer hypothetical. And why is it so important? Because unless the student understands the ground reality, unless the student interacts with people and the users, there is no opportunity to create sustainable design. Because sustainability is also social, it is economical, and then it is also environmental, right? So as long as the focus remains on the human, the people, and they understand that, they are able to then resolve how can they apply these ideas in creating design projects that are sustainable. Number two, I think, which is very, very important is how can we all collaborate together? How can business students collaborate with the architecture students? Unless we do that, we will not be successful. So at Harriet Watt, because of our global campuses, because of the global outreach that we have, it is very much possible to have these cross-discipline, cross-campus interactions. So we've introduced courses like Shaping Tomorrow Together. We have the collaborative project. Our students are studying with the architectural engineering students within the program of architecture. So this dialogue across disciplines, across nations, across campuses is very, very critical to the success of us really being able to make an impact through our individual expertise.
In terms of architecture, and like what do you forecast the future of architecture in sustainability?
Yeah. So what is architecture all about? Yeah. My personal opinion, and people might differ as far as these opinions are concerned, architecture is all about people, right? It is just like any other service industry, like a doctor makes sure I feel well if I'm sick. A lawyer makes sure he handles my case well. An architect's responsibility is towards the society and the community. And his responsibility is in making sure that people feel well. More and more, we're having conversation about architecture, the tangible dimensions of how does a building look. But nobody really talks about how do people feel in that building. And those are the conversations which in the future are going to become even more important. And the reason I say that is because we have all these digital technologies, we have the AIs. If they are going to become the driving force, what happens to my feeling? What happens to my experience? That really needs to be the core focus, and allow these technologies and the AIs to drive how people feel and how well they feel, so that the impact becomes climate positive, it becomes people positive. So I have a sense of belonging. I feel I belong to a community, and wellness positive. If people are not well, no technology, no AI is going to really make the impact that we are looking for.
So the integration of technology such as AI and BIM is transforming architecture. How are these tools being utilized in your teaching and research?
So BIM and AI are here to stay. They absolutely come with their advantages. So the way we've designed the entire program is essentially making sure that first the students have the foundational skills, which are very traditional, not BIM and AI focused, very hands-on. When you have your your head coordination, very important. First, you need to learn how to use your head, how to use your hands, and then once you have those foundational skills, you can use AI as a creative tool, right? But without those foundational skills, the AI as a tool is a failure. So what we've done is, in the initial years, we have the students having a very hands-on approach, using their hands, drafting and sketching by hand, having sketchbooks, and very slowly towards the end of their architectural education, towards their third and the fourth year, we begin to introduce AI and the BIM modeling techniques, so that they can use these as an iterative process of trying to understand and actually allow the user or the client to, or the jurors who come in for seeing their projects, to be able to go through this entire process, which is the design. Yeah.
So what role do you foresee AI playing in the architecture design over the next decade?
Right. So AI has an important role in terms of quality, in terms of standards, but in terms of the time that we can save through AI. But can it really replace the human component is a big question mark still in my head. And I think it will remain. AI will never be able to replace the critical, analytical, reflective skills of a human. It is a very, very important positive aid for the human, but cannot replace that critical thinking skills that a human being has. And he can adapt and change and be observant. And that is then kind of allows that feedback mechanism which goes on into the human brain.
That's a question even I think about a lot, and I completely agree with what you think. It cannot replace
Yes.
certain parts of
Yes,
human.
yes.
It just cannot.
Yeah.
With the growing importance of smart cities, how are you preparing your students to design for a future where cities are more interconnected and data driven?
Right. So data is available in a very raw format to our students when they interview the users or they get factual data. But what is important is, what is it that they're doing with that data? So if they can respond to the basic user need, right, that allows for not only cities to be connected, but more importantly, human beings to connect to each other. The more these technologies are in the forefront, I feel there is a disconnect from human to human. And that needs to come back. How do we use these technologies? How do we use this data to connect human to human? How do we respond to local contexts? What is happening in architecture because of this globalization? Every city is beginning to look like any other city across the world, right? So that response to the context, to that setting is so critical, because then you're also responding to the SDGs. You cannot have sustainable cities by just copying ideas or borrowing data which is not relevant to you. So response to the human, response to the user, and how do these students then respond to that context for which they are designing for, so that they are ready for any context. They could be studying in Dubai, you're studying business, right? But your contexts are varied. You could be from anywhere designing for anywhere. And that is very important. And that leads to a concept which is called as globalization. I'm not saying you don't need to have understanding of the global, but you should also have the understanding of what is really the local. Because at the end of it, architects are actually defining how people live, right? And in a manner also defining how people feel.
What are the biggest challenges architects face when designing for smart cities?
I think the biggest challenge right now is the cost that comes with it, the impact of that, which might be long term, and our responsibility as architects is actually to educate people. And when I say people, we need to have a broader group of stakeholders. It cannot only be the experts who talk and understand smart cities. It's the end user also, and the education at that level, at the community user level, is also very important. And I think that is one challenge. The second one is, how can a smart city be an inclusive smart city? If you're going to create segregation between the ones who have it and the ones who don't have it, right, then we are creating even more disparity when it comes to smart cities. So are these digital technologies available to all? Are they all inclusive? Is a big question mark.
Architecture firms often struggle to differentiate themselves in a crowded market. So what advice do you give students about personal branding and marketing their work?
Yeah. That's a very interesting question. Honestly, I think, and a very important one, because more and more we are seeing our entire world turn towards visual imagery. How good does it look has become so important. And branding thus has become very important. But I completely disagree with the idea of branding. And I'll tell you why, especially in our profession. So we have two kinds of, broadly speaking, two kinds of architects, right? We have the celebrity architects who are in the glossy magazines. They create what I call the wow factor. Oh my God, look at that building, And we have a lot of wow buildings in Dubai also, which is also important to a certain extent, because then it allows that city to be in the global map of the world, right? So you have the celebrity architects, but then you have architects who are there to create design for impact, right? Who create design for justice, because they can be justice through design also. What I tell my students is, you design for the people who don't have a voice, for your end user. So the impact they leave with is an experience. That experience creates a memory for them, and they want to keep coming back for that experience through that design, through that project. That is them branding themselves. Rather than creating the most wow visual image of just a visual image of how the project would look, it is how the project would feel when people walk through those spaces, and that spatial experience that the user has. And how through that design then, you're creating design which is climate positive, which is social positive, and which is wellness positive, because wellness is becoming, and I talk about wellness not in the context of physically how well am I feeling, but also about our mental and emotional well-being, and the way we design spaces does impact that too.
So the last question for you is a little personal. What would you be doing in your life if not architecture? That's something
That's
I
a
want to
very
know.
interesting question. I love the mountains. I love climbing. I do a lot of treks. I love adventure. I love being in nature where there are no demands and you're at the best connected moment with nature. I think I would be climbing peaks.
That's so different from architecture, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah?
Have you ever gone on a trek?
Yes. I do. I don't do it as often as I would
Yeah.
because of life.
Life,
Right?
yeah.
but I do manage maybe 2 every year.
2 is also a good number to be actually.
Yeah.